I'm getting ready to weld up this cast iron. I've got Ni55 wire loaded into the welder, into my miller, but to be honest with you, I tried a sample, just welding a little spot on the piece of the manifold I cut off and I'm going to get rid of, and I tried welding that up with the E720S-6, is that what it is? I'm sorry, ER70S-6. And that's the wire I use for welding exhaust and stuff like that as a mechanic, and it seemed to lay down on the cast just fine. So there's a part of me that wants to use that, but I bought this small spool, this little 2-pound spool of the Ni55 wire, and it had a price associated with it, so I feel like I should be using that anyway, and that's what we're going to use. I've used some of that on this, and I've compared the two, and I guess they're all right. They come out close to the same, so it'll be all right. I'm not really worried about stresses or the cast cracking or anything cracking off of the cast because I'm not welding a crack. I've chopped the head off of the turbo manifold, and I'm going to weld a mild steel pipe to it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to build up a bead of weld around the area where I've cut off, and I've ground that down with a carbide bit, so it's there's no fiberglass or anything embedded in it or any impurities. It's nice and fresh. And I'm just going to build up a nice little Ni55 bead of weld around that, and then we'll fit the pipe in it and we'll weld the pipe to the bead of weld, and hopefully that'll work just fine. The reason I'm not preheating, and I don't want to preheat, isn't that I can't. This piece is small enough that it will fit in an oven and preheat. I'm just really worried about warping out the flange that bolts to the head, and it's really important that a turbo manifold seals to the head or you won't get the boost. So that's where I'm at. I'd love to show you guys how my weld came out on the practice piece before I get started on this. This is what I welded with the ER70S-6. This weld looks fine. This, and this are with the nickel. I was playing with my settings. This is the setting I'm going to use it on. I'm real happy with the way this looks. And hopefully I'll get a bead just like this all the way around my other pipe, and everything will be fine. This is how I have the manifold jigged up on a cylinder head. It's an 8452 casting head for those of you legends that know what that is. I only have one of these heads, so it's not really hurting anything, but I still put a valve cover on it to protect the springs and stuff inside anyway. I'm afraid of hurting the camera. I don't have any lenses or filters for the camera, so I'm not actually going to record the weld, but I'll show you how it looks like when it's done. For now, I gotta get busy on the welding. So I'm only doing small areas, and then I'm giving it time to cool in between putting down more beads. So I started here and here and up here, and I'm just growing them out a little bit at a time and letting it cool, then a little bit more and letting it cool, a little bit more and letting it cool. I don't want to create any stress or cracks or warpage anywhere else. Up top, I've welded a little bit higher than where I'm actually going to weld. I put a little booger up here just to see how it mills and grinds, right? Ni55 is supposed to be a little bit more difficult or easier to mill than Ni99, and I just want to see. This is my first experience with the nickel wire, but so far everything's going just fine and dandy. I think we've cooled down a bit. Yes, sir. I'm going to start welding the next. I welded this on with the Ni55 welding wire. I really pulsed it. I set a tack, and then I waited for the color to go away, then I set a tack, and I waited for the color to go away, then I set a tack, and I waited for the color to go away, and I kept stopping, making sure that the manifold wasn't getting too hot. But I got really good penetration all the way around, and I feel good about it. And now we're going to take our manifold and we're going to bolt it back to the head of the truck, and hopefully we're going to weld some pipe to it and build out this turbo manifold. We got our mandrel bend piece of 2.5-inch exhaust pipe chopped to size, and we got it tack welded to the manifold. Now we're gonna pull it back out. We're gonna get a good bead of weld going around it, and then we'll worry about welding our fresh T4 flange onto the exhaust, and that'll be it. Well, after that, we're gonna weld a piece of pipe or a metal bracket from here to the head for strain relief, and then I'm probably gonna cut a hole so I can weld in the 40 millimeter or 42 millimeter, 45 millimeter V-band for the EWG for the wastegate, and then we'll just plumb the wastegate right back into the exhaust, into the downpipe. All right, we got some welding to do. We've pretty much got our turbo manifold built and welded up in the right way in place, and the flange is now where it needs to be. We've welded the pipe to the cast, and then we've ground that down and we've plated over it, welding to the pipe and welding to a further in piece of the cast. And now I think I'm gonna plate one more time, so we got a double wall thickness on the pipe, and so that we're grabbing to a third bead. So we got 3 layers of weld against the cast, just so this will be strong, because the turbo manifold is going to see over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe 1,500, and it's going to have more pressure in this manifold than what the turbo is making, right? If we're making 15 psi of boost, we're going to have greater than 15 psi of pressure in exhaust pressure. So I'm probably going to plate this up so we have double wall thickness on the pipe, and so we have 3 beads of weld going around the cast, and we should be fine. So this is what we landed with. While the pipe that we welded to the cast is mild steel, it's double wall through the whole distance of it. Even this pipe for the wastegate is double wall thickness. We have the wastegate merged back into the exhaust. You can see where it comes in right here. We're gonna weld our downpipe to this, and this is how we came out. The black color is I'll show it to you. The black color is this VHT flame-proof header paint. It claims it resists up to 2,000 Fahrenheit, and it's got a ceramic in it. So we've actually lined the outside of it with a thick layer, but also inside of it with a thick layer, in hopes to try to keep any amount of heat off of this as we can, because this is for a boost application, so it's going to see high heat and it's going to see pressure, and these are just all of the worst possible things for something that we welded to cast to live. But we have good faith in it. I'm happy with it, though, even though some of my welds aren't super pretty. We ground it all down, and I'm very happy with the way it looks. After I drill my hole to mount the wastegate pipe, I'm able to get inside of this hole with the welder and weld the inside of the seam as well as the outside, and I've welded it in 2 or 3 different layers on the outside. So we have great attachment between this pipe and the manifold, and we have a high confidence that this will work just fine for our application. And just as a side note, I'm always happy to have the wastegate front and center, so it's easy to get to change hoses or do whatever we got to do to it without getting underneath the truck. What we're looking at here is my strut tower support. Because of the amount of material that I removed from the strut tower, I had to brace it. What I did was I took some stainless steel thick wall square stock. I cut it at an angle, and I cut it to the right length, so it welds in right below the control arm bushing, or the control arm mount, and I put it on both sides, and it's welded to the inside of the frame, and this should add a lot of rigidity to this structure. The strut tower is 2-ply. It still has the outer wall that goes around the spring, and this should give it all the strength it ever had. And I'm showing you that now because I think we're ready to put the manifold in for the last time. Turbo is in, hopefully for the last time. Lord knows we've had it in and out at least 50 different times for mock-ups and stuff. We're happy with the placement of our wastegate. It's right here, it's plumbed right back into the exhaust. So, you know, we won't like hear it dump when it's open. We won't hear whoosh coming from that. We'll have a nice 50 millimeter TL style blow off valve, so we'll still hear the blow off valve dump when we let go of the throttle, but the wastegate, we just plumb back into the exhaust. From here, we still need to build our downpipe and get the boost hose set up from the intercooler up to the throttle body with the blow off valve and with the mass airflow sensor that has the integrated inlet temp sensor. We're getting there.